Satsang. We'll start with one of our questions that's come in advance, and then, as always, open it to any questions that anyone here may have. What are the physical and mental attributes of enlightenment? I want to make sure I recognize it when I get there. So, I always say, if you're wondering whether you're in love, chances are you're not. In the same way, if you're worried and wondering about the stage of your enlightenment, chances are you can stop worrying about it and keep meditating. The attributes of enlightenment are living in the light. It's not some esoteric sort of combination of symptoms and signs, and here's what your hands do, and here's here's what happens to your physical body, and here's what happens, you can walk on water. It's not about that. It's not, when you're enlightened you can walk on water and you don't sleep and you don't eat. It's not that you no longer have a body. The distinction is living in light versus living in darkness. Living in truth versus living in falsehood. So if there's aspects of you that are identified with the physical body, that you think you are that, aspects of you that feel separate from other physical bodies, people of other colors or other races or other religions or other sexual orientations or rich and poor, whatever it may be. You're not quite there yet. If you find yourself angry, frustrated, annoyed at ways that the universe or other people are stopping you from doing what you want to do, you're not there yet. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna gives beautiful descriptions of what a yogi is like. When you think of enlightened, we have all of these words that we use to describe someone who has reached really the highest awakening that in this physical body we achieve. And don't get worried about the semantics. Okay, well, here's a yogi, and here's a saint, or here's a sage, or here's an enlightened person, or here's an awakened person, or here's a guru. Don't worry about the semantics. These are all just ways for us to think about something rather than make any of it happen for us. If I can spend all of my time and energy trying to wrap my brain around the distinction between enlightened and awakened and liberated and moksha and this, then I don't actually have to meditate and find any of it. So don't worry about that. But worry about finding that light within you. And then whatever you want to call it, you can call it. But in the Gita, Lord Krishna gives us some beautiful descriptions of what a yogi is like. Because Arjuna asks him, well, how do you know? What is it like when a being like that moves through the world? And Lord Krishna gives many verses on that. And one of them that to me has always stuck very deeply is that a yogi is someone to whom a brick of gold, a lump of clay, and a handful of dirt are the same. And I love that because our third eye, this Agya Chakra, is the energy center of the power of discrimination. That's actually what it is. That which enables us to discriminate truth from falsehood. Okay, so that's on the spiritual yogi side. On a physical yogi side, we have a lot of people here who practice asanas, who practice yoga. And in the practice of physical yoga, we develop a subtlety in the body. So you're in an asana, and the teacher says, okay, focus on your back right outside of your heel. Well, that requires a level of subtlety. It's not a part of the body that most of us are used to isolating. Or the teacher will say, okay, so the lower part of your calf should be externally rotating and the inner part should be internally rotating. And my yoga teacher used to do that all the time, and I would think, well, how in the world? Like, it's all connected. What do you mean? How can one part go this way? But simply the attention to it gives us a subtlety to suddenly start actually being able to isolate, okay, that's my upper inner knee. That's my outer back femur, like parts of the body that we never would know. So discrimination. So it's impossible that what he means is a yogi with an opened third eye, a power of enlightened discrimination between truth and falsehood, or even just a yogi of the asanas, with the subtlety of discrimination between an inner rotation, an outer rotation, the back of the heel, the front of the thigh, couldn't tell the difference between what a brick of gold and a lump of clay or a handful of dirt are like? Well, clearly that's not what he meant. So what did he mean? And that's when you start to realize, well, what he's talking about is in terms of their importance for our lives. That to a yogi, there's no sense of this brick of gold being somehow of more value than clay or dirt. Whereas most of us are running after money, running after possessions. So for the yogi, for the enlightened one, it's all the same. The brick of gold is useful in purchasing something from a store you need. The clay is useful in molding a bowl or a cup. The dirt is useful with some water. Get it between bricks. You can build a house. Whatever it may be. And that's just one of many, many verses about this yogi who's unaffected by success, failure, wealth, poverty. So these are some clues, you can say, some signs. But remember, we're talking about the self, not others. This isn't about a scorecard that you're walking through the world measuring other people to. It's not about, well, all right, I'm diagnosing you. Okay, you've got 7 of the 10 symptoms of enlightenment. For the self, don't worry about what you're ticking off. Worry instead about where in you is it still dark. Because the beautiful thing is, it's also not all or nothing. As we walk the path, aspects of us that used to be fully dark, fully unconscious, not dark as in bad or evil, but dark just as in a place that the light hasn't shined yet, a place where I can't see, a place that hasn't been touched by the light. So we start walking the path. And suddenly that light starts to touch more and more of us inside. And more aspects of us, aspects of our past, habits, ways of thinking, impressions, sanskaras, identities. Suddenly the light shines in them. And we no longer need to act like that because we realize, oh, so then that part becomes light. I remember when I first got here and first met Pujya Swamiji and learned what the word guru means, which literally is one who removes darkness and brings light. And every night before I slept, I would make him 2 little lists. And I can still picture, was given this little pad of paper, maybe the papers were so big, and I would take one and fold them in half, and on the outside I would write, already light, on one of them, as in that day, pieces of me that had become light, pieces of me that in that morning had been dark and unconscious, full of ignorance and ego, that during that day had become light. And I'd make a list of them. Sometimes there was only one, sometimes there were lots. And then the second list, separate piece of paper, was titled, To Turn to Light. Things that I was acutely aware of at that moment, because obviously, of course, you need much more than a tiny little piece of paper folded in half for all of the parts of us to turn to light. But it was about what was up for me at that moment. What parts of me was I aware of that day, that moment, that were still unconscious, that were still connected to the past, to the history, to the identity, to the ego, to fear, to desire. And I'd make a list of those. And every day, whenever I saw him, I would just offer them both. So the beautiful aspect is that even as we move on the path, it's not all or nothing. So don't make lists of what it's going to be like when you're enlightened and judge yourself by them every day. Instead of that, simply ask yourself every night or every morning or every hour, what parts of you are turning to light? Where can you breathe through now that you couldn't breathe through before? And it may be something physical in the body. It may be a reaction to something someone has said or done that you know up until yesterday would have really stung, would have really caused a reaction. But today, wow, miraculously, by God's grace, there you were, able to choose an alternative way of being. There you were able to respond with love and peace instead of react. Look at that. And also be aware of what parts in you still need to be turned to light. And then offer them. Offer them to the light of yourself. Offer them into your heart. When you're on the banks of Ganga, offer them to Ganga. If you have a guru, if you're blessed enough to have a guru, offer them to the guru. If you're performing a fire ceremony, offer them to the fire. If you're in a temple, offer them to the divine. And slowly, 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 you find more and more light, more and more light, more and more light. Until there's no question to be asked anymore. As long as you're asking the question, keep going. Keep going. If there are any questions here, I'm happy to take them before taking another of those that have come in advance. Yes.
From your wisdom, I'd like to know what will be the best advice for us to help us how to get rid of the ego, how to be more connected with ourselves and with ourselves.
Great. So how do we get rid of the ego and connect with ourselves? Well, the first aspect is simply to recognize it's there. It's one thing to recognize it theoretically. Yeah, I must have this thing called an ego because everybody talks about it and I'd like to be free of it. Sort of in theory. Like a very vague kind of detox. Right? You know, I mean, you get an email in the inbox that says detox. Now, you may be feeling really fine. It's not that you're sick, but something in your inbox says this detox, that detox. You think that would be a good thing to do. Without necessarily having any clarity. I mean, it's liver detox, kidney detox. Yeah, sure, why not? That'll be good for me. And they are. But the point being that if I actually know that it's my kidney, or it's my liver, or it's my spleen, or it's this, or it's that, I'm going to be much more well-equipped to walk into a detox and to know what is it going to make sense for me to be drinking or eating on the detox, what type of detox to do. Right? So somebody, for example, who's an alcoholic and is suffering from liver damage due to alcoholism is going to probably need a completely different type of detox than someone who has spent too many days in Delhi breathing, Delhi air. Right? Both different forms of pollutants impacting our body in negative ways. But if you went to a naturopath or an Ayurveda or a healer who understood the workings of the body, chances are they would give you different type of detoxes for the alcoholic liver compared to the lungs filled with, the garbage of Delhi's air. And I mention this because when we talk about the ego, as long as it's this very vague thing that I know in theory I should be rid of, but I don't actually know what it is or how it impacts me, we can throw lots of things at it, and they're all good, they're all beneficial. Meditate, pray, do seva, do japa. I mean, they're all wonderfully beneficial things. But if you actually have some clarity on the way that the ego is polluting your life, it makes you much more equipped at how to deal with it. And so, for example, I'll just throw a few different varieties of ways. So one way, let's say, in my early life, I was taught, be tough, be hard, don't cry, be strong, take care of yourself. Maybe something happened in my family and I had to be the one to come forward and take care of everyone. Maybe I'm a guy and I was just told, boys don't cry. Like, be macho. What's wrong with you? Be strong. Whatever the conditioning may have been, I now have this sanskara, this impression that says, armor up. Don't let anybody see you cry. Don't let anybody know you're weak. Now, fast forward a few decades, I'm in a loving relationship, or a relationship in which I'm really trying to give love and feel love, and maybe there's even children involved. But it's a relationship I'm committed to. But I can't open up. Well, that's one way that the ego is going to be negatively impacting my life. Every time I feel something, I act out. I take it out on the loved one, or I just ignore everybody, or I go to a bar and get drunk, or I hit my punching bag, or I leave the relationship. I create some drama, I manufacture some drama. Because it's not, of course, that I even have enough awareness to say, I'm getting too vulnerable here, got to get out. The ego's so good that it keeps me from even knowing that. And so I manufacture some drama that frees me from being in a situation where I actually have to be vulnerable. And I get out. So that's one possibility. Another possibility. In my formative years, I was taught, you're only worthwhile if you succeed. I was praised and loved every time I did something good in school, and ignored or hurt or scolded if I didn't do well. And I came into this world with an ego belief that I am how high I rise, I am how much I succeed, how much I achieve. So you get me into the workplace, and damn right I'm going to push everybody out of the way. I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure I'm the one handing that project proposal to the boss. I don't care who did the work. I'm going to be the one handing it in, and I'm going to lie, and I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to push, and I'm going to do whatever I need to do. Because I've got to be the one who gets credit for that. And if I don't, I'm going to get angry. And I'm going to sabotage other people's work. It's just another way the ego impacts us. I'll give you one more example. In my formative years, you'll see the ego gets sort of built during our childhoods. So in my childhood, I was taught I wasn't good enough. I was always being compared unfavorably to others. Why aren't you as smart as this one, or as pretty as this one, or as obedient as that one? I was told I'm never going to achieve much, can't do anything. I was told I'm stupid and worthless, either with people's words or through their actions. Now, I get through school, I get through university, maybe I even get an advanced degree, I've got a job, and every time I'm about to succeed, I self-sabotage. Somehow, I find that I just can't make anything work. And I cannot figure out what it is. I've got the skills, I've got the ability, but for some reason can't make anything work. Go from job to job, position to position, city to city. Try a different degree, get a different certificate. Can't make anything succeed. Well, because the ego's inside me making sure that what I think about myself is in line with actually what happens. So those are three vastly different situations. And of course, if I did this all night, I could come up with another few dozen options. But it helps to understand which way the ego is impacting us. How is my life being toxified by that ego? How is that ego bringing darkness into my life that's keeping me from opening up to love? Opening up to truth, opening up to beauty. Right? It's like that beautiful quote of Marianne Williamson that says, it's not our, I'm going to paraphrase it, I apologize, but it's something like, we're not afraid of being small and weak. It's actually our greatness that scares us. And it scares us because we've been ego conditioned to believe that we're small and weak. And to go against that requires wrestling with the ego in a way that's really scary for a lot of us. So the way to get rid of it is first you have to really understand how and where is it impacting me. And that's a beautiful introspection. Take some time, sit on the banks of Ganga and really ask yourself, what would my life look like in this moment? Don't start repenting your past or, going back. There's not a lot of point in that. But right now, how would your life be different if you weren't under the control of your ego? What would you be able to open yourself up to? What would you be able to achieve, to feel, to experience if you weren't under the control of your ego? And allow yourself to sit with those visions for a while. The sort of me freed of ego vision. What is it like to walk through your world? Like, close your eyes for a minute. Everybody, just take a moment. Close your eyes. And picture yourself getting out of bed in the morning. But remember, if we're not being led by the ego, we're not getting out of bed in fear or anxiety or stress or judgment or longing. We're getting out of bed simply as pure awareness, pure love. See yourself, get out of bed like that. What does that feel like? Now picture yourself bathing and getting dressed, but again, no judgment. So nothing about the body, its size or its color or its shape or age. No rehearsing conversations that have to happen that day. No comparison of the self with others. No recitation of scripts that other people have put in our minds about ourselves. Just pure freedom. Freedom to feel the water as it runs over the body. Freedom to give thanks that we have water coming out of a tap over our bodies. And then picture yourself interacting with others. Maybe your family in the house, maybe neighbors, maybe people on the way to work. But instead of seeing them as obstacles on your path, or as objects you can use to get ahead, instead of thinking about what they're thinking about you, what is it like to meet them as pure love, pure awareness, pure consciousness? Take a moment and just walk through your day, whatever it looks like, from that place of absolute freedom of the ego, freedom of any sense of who you think you are, higher or lower than others, separate from others. Freedom from any identification with your role or your title, however high or low it may be. Freedom from any attachment to what anyone else says or does. Freedom from any attachment to the outcomes of your actions, success or failure, profit or loss. Walk through that day as pure awareness. Slowly come back to here, but see if you can sit for a moment, still in that place of pure awareness, pure love, pure consciousness. Free of the voices, free of the roles, free of the expectations. Slowly open your eyes. So did you get a taste of what that's like? So now you've walked through your day already in your mind. Now walk through it in your body. And you'll lose it the same way that as we meditate our mind wanders. Just bring it back. And develop within you a phrase that works for you. So for example, if you find that you're suddenly in the role again, I'm in charge, who do you think you are? Now, administratively, you may have to say it. Being free of the ego doesn't mean that we don't fulfill our duties. It just means I don't identify as them. So if you find that you're not only saying, do what I say, but you've actually got this thing inside you of, yeah, they better do what I say. Don't they know who I am? Who do they think they are? Have a sort of personal code word with yourself. You know? What do you need to bring yourself back? You can try, hey, Madam Ego, Mr. Ego. Maybe for you it's particularly an aspect of yourself. Maybe there's a nickname that for you represents that ego. It doesn't matter at all what it is. But think of a way that you can have a conversation with the ego. It should be soft, it should be gentle. Remember, the ego is not there to harm you. It was created within you. And just as it takes charge, just look at it, call it whatever you call it, Madam Ego. Thanks for coming by. Thanks for coming by, but actually, you know, I'm not going to have time to play today. Thanks for coming by. Let me show you the door. Or thanks for coming by, you know, you can have a seat over here. Because as I always say, it's not about having to slaughter the ego. It's just about getting it out of that position of control, of running the show. Madam Ego, thanks for stopping by. Have a seat over here, because I'm going to go back to moving through the world as pure consciousness. Feels much better. I'm going to go back to that place of pure love. You can stay seated over there, no problem. Nobody's going to come over and cut your head off today. But you don't get to run the show anymore. You don't get to be the one speaking out of my mouth. You don't get to be the one pulling the strings in my neurons of my brain, telling me how to feel and what to think. You get to just sit down.
Why the ego were created within us? I don't understand.
Why was it created?
It would be so much easier for all of us if we just wasn't with knowing.
Yeah, it would be much easier for all of us. It would be so...
The ego there? What is the function of the ego? Why?
Okay.
Sorry about
No, don't be sorry at all. So, there's two pieces here. The first is general, the second is specific. The general is the general why. Wouldn't it be nice if we didn't have an ego? Absolutely. It also would be really nice if we didn't have to waste time sleeping or eating. Right? I mean, think about how many extra hours of the day we'd have if we didn't have to eat. If I didn't have to sleep, wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't it be great if we could fly? Wouldn't it be great if we could all just be enlightened like this? Right? Wouldn't it be great? Right? I mean, so you could do that all night also. There's aspects of our human condition that are there due to a variety of reasons. Some of it are what you can call laws of nature. When God, the creator, by whatever our religion may be, it doesn't matter. Whether we say it all just happened, it evolved, whether we say there was a creator, whether we say it was just an intelligent creation, either way, it doesn't matter. But however it was created with some laws of nature. Laws of gravity. You can't fly. Walk off a building, you're going to fall to the ground. Laws of degeneration. Wouldn't it be great if we could live forever? Right? I mean, as long as we're doing this, why die? But of course, live forever in the healthy bodies of us when we're 20, right? I mean, you don't want to live in the body you have right before you die. So we've got laws of nature that are just there. We have what we call God's divine Leela, which is sort of the bucket into which we put everything that we don't actually have an explanation for. It's God's divine play. Those are the pieces of why aren't we enlightened to begin with? Like, why bother going through this whole, we are God, then we forget we're God, then we have to come back to being God. Wouldn't it be so much easier to just stay God in the first place? So this is the divine Leela, the divine play, out of one, the many back to the one, but the many that were never separate from the one to begin with. That's God's Leela. The ego falls into a lot of these categories. From a developmental standpoint, we develop the ego as children because it actually is that which enables us to know we are separate from the world. So if you take very young children, when you study child development, we know, for example, that for a period of early life, children have no sense of being separate from the universe. Like, it's me and that breast, and we are one. It's not me and breast. It's me breast. There's just oneness. Slowly, we have separation, this awareness that I'm actually a separate being from the breast. I'm a separate being from the universe. And in that awareness of separate being, the ego starts to develop. Well, if I'm separate, who am I then? If it's not just this sort of me breastness of the universe, but if actually breast is over there and it actually belongs to mom, who is also separate from me, who is the me? And that's where the ego starts to develop. And that's where those formative years are so important, as I'm trying to understand who I am, who is this separate being. The world I'm living in at that time is how my ego gets created. And here's the thing, it's not all bad. The ego is that makes me know that I don't get to, eat the French fries off of the plate of the person sitting next to me because they are hers. And if I want a French fry, I have to ask, Susie, can I have a French fry? But I don't get to just grab French fries off of her plate because, see, she's a separate being over there and I'm a separate being over here, and this is my plate and my fries are gone, and that's her plate, and she still has fries, but they're hers. And so all of these very convenient aspects of socialization couldn't exist if we didn't have egos. There would be no social norms if we didn't have egos. That which keeps most of us in line long before we have any sense of dharma is ego. And whether it's the ego wrapped up in fear, if I don't finish my spinach, I'm going to be spanked. Okay? Fear-based ego, I'm going to do what mom says, because if not, mom's going to get angry. Whether it's desire-based, if I finish my spinach, I will get ice cream. Whether it's mom loves Johnny more than me, Johnny had less spinach and more ice cream, not fair. These are the bricks that our ego gets created out of. And that sense of self slowly grows. And so it's not bad. It's the ego is that which tells you in school, for example, oh, I'm a student. And when friends come over or other people come over with peer pressure and they say, let's skip school today. Nobody will know. It's actually the ego that says, oh no, I'm not that type of person. I'm a good girl. Mom's told me I'm a good girl. I'm not going to skip school. These are all little bricks of the ego. If we were just living as pure consciousness, there's no good girl, there's no bad girl, there's no this, there's no that. All the fries are mine. None of it matters. Not only are the fries mine, the fries are me. There's nothing but me, right? So realize that the ego isn't your enemy. It's been created out of the bricks of where you were, who was raising you, what they were going through at that time, how they were raised. But then we get on a spiritual path and we realize, oh wait, I'm not that. But this is where it's really important, for me at least, to not think of the ego as the enemy who I'm going to slaughter. Because a lot of, not the highest truth of who I am, but the little parts of me that you sort of identify with, childhood aspects of yourself, pieces of, your younger you. They're all wrapped up in the ego. I mean, it's all ego drama. But the concept of annihilating all of that is scary. And it brings up this element inside even of hurt and pain, but that's me, but I went through that. And yeah, on the highest level, burn it. But as you're walking there, don't worry. Allow the ego to exist. Just take the reins of your life out of its hands. Don't let it be the one calling the shots. Give more and more power, more and more attention to those aspects of yourself that are true and real. So keep coming back. Going to move through the world with love. Take 5 minutes in bed before you get out of bed in the morning. Ground yourself in that place. I'm going to walk out of bed as pure consciousness. Going to walk out of bed as pure awareness. Put sticky notes all over your bathroom mirrors. Put them on the fridge. Put them on the dashboard of your car. Put them on your computer. Set a reminder to go off on your phone every half an hour. Do whatever you need to do to keep reminding yourself. Pure consciousness. Pure consciousness. Pure consciousness. Pure consciousness. Pure consciousness. And again, you'll keep doing what you do. It's not about not doing your duty. It's about not identifying. There's that beautiful story of the man who goes to find this awakened master, enlightened master, and send him to the cottage in the woods where the master lives in the forest meditating. And he gets there. He knocks on the door, no answer. And he hears some noise coming from the back, so he walks around the cabin to the back, and there's an old man chopping firewood. And he says to him, I'm looking for whatever the name of the master was. And the master says, yeah, that's what sometimes they call me. And the man realizes he's the master. He's like, but this guy's chopping wood. Like, I came here looking for enlightenment, an enlightened master. This guy's just out here chopping wood like everyone else. And so he says to him, but I thought you were... The master says, yeah, that's what they say. And he says, but what did you do before you got enlightened? He said, I used to chop wood. And the guy says, but you're still chopping wood. And he says, He says, now wood chopping is happening. He says, before I was the chopper of the wood. Now chopping is happening. Meaning, it's not about what's being done. It's about the awareness of the doer. Nothing enlightened or unenlightened about chopping wood. But if I'm the chopper of the wood, I'm stuck in my ego. If chopping is happening, I'm just here. I'm here. Maybe chopping is happening through me. Then maybe lighting fire is happening through me. Then maybe beans boiling is happening through me. But in the first case where I'm the one who's got to chop the wood and light the fire and cook the food, and I'm the one who does it all. Well, now chopping happens, and fire happens, and boiling beans happen. So your duties happen through you. Your actions happen through you. But you're no longer identified as the doer of them. And you just keep coming back to that place of pure love and consciousness. Yes. And if you are in relationship of any kind, or in a sangha, and if not, find one, make one, even one person. Try to keep reminding each other. Have signals for each other. If it seems like one of you is dropping into ego, have a signal. Not an I'm better than you signal. Not a there you go again signal. Not a you've forgot 5 times, I've only forgot once signal. But a signal in which you as the one giving the other person the signal, instead of putting them back into an ego role of failure, simply create the space into which they can come back to the truth of who they are. So you become simply the creator of space for truth and love. I love your beingness. I love your awareness. I love your love. Again, work out whatever works for you, but some signal to just help each other stay in that place.